So, in the past few days, some official pics have dropped for the new Sam Mendes Beatles biopics. Let's talk about it. As a Beatles fan, I've got some mixed feelings, honestly. On the one hand, I'm actually excited that these movies are going to be happening. I think the idea of trying to tackle that as 4 separate perspectives is actually really interesting. It's really cool to be finally having big budget Beatles biopic movies. You know, for years we've had only very low to at most mid-budget Beatles biopics. I think it's long overdue that something as grandiose as The Beatles deserved a slightly elevated production. First, let's talk about casting. That's where things are going to get a little complicated to begin with. I want to start out by saying, casting Ringo, brilliant. They got Barry Keoghan, whose name I know for a goddamn fact I'm pronouncing right, so you better watch yourself, commenters. It's not Keoghan. He doesn't just look the part, he's able to give really good and nuanced performances, like we saw in Saltburn.
Well, someone has to entertain us all.
Right.
He just has a Ringo vibe without trying too hard. It kind of looks like if someone had to draw Ringo from memory. The others, a little bit more skeptical. The actors chosen to play John, Paul, and George don't necessarily scream the Beatles to me. I feel like there could have been better choices. And look, I know looks aren't everything, and acting, matters a lot more. But when you're making a Beatles biopic, these are some of the most famous people in human history, to be fair. These people are some of the most iconic faces, in history, and they're burned into everyone's mind. Some of the first people that were implanted into pop culture and into every form of media. Everyone knows what these people look like. So when I look at Paul Mescal, I don't know that I think Paul McCartney just because Paul is in his name.
Look how they mess with my boy.
There's Paul Mescal, a dead ringer for Paul McCartney.
What the hell are you talking about?
He kind of looks a little bit more like John to me. Am I crazy? Oh yeah, I forgot. Blake Richardson exists. Look at these two men. Tell me Blake Richardson doesn't look like Paul McCartney.
Oh, thank you.
The same with John and George. Something about their energy just doesn't necessarily give me confidence that they're going to be able to embody John Lennon and George Harrison in a way that will not remove me from the experience for 4 movies. That's not to say that they're bad actors. Joseph Quinn, for example, he was great in Fantastic Four and Stranger Things.
Speak.
Harris Dickinson, I'm not that familiar. Yeah, I can't really speak to him.
Yeah, okay.
I think this is also a good time to sort of say this, but they look really old. They look way too f***ing old. They look very old for the very cherubic, naive little, barely 20-somethings that the Beatles were when they first hit the scene, right? So much of their early popularity was tied up in youth and vigor and replacing this empty void that had been left by the demise of early rock and roll in America. There was this gap open for a youthful sex symbol that could kind of hit with the teenage demographics, and these little baby-faced boys from Britain smashed that out of the park. Harris Dickinson is the only one of those guys who's still in their 20s. He is 29. By the time each of these guys were 30, the Beatles were done. So there is that. Now, to be fair, I could be totally wrong, and I could be being an asshole right now. Maybe they're perfect for these roles. Everyone doubted that Heath Ledger could pull off the Joker, and looky here. I'm the Joker, baby! sometimes, the best performances are ones that come from people who are playing against type or against expectations and are able to bring like a new perspective and a new energy to it.
I am the one who knocks.
And maybe like the idea is that the Beatles are so iconic and their image is so iconic that we needed a fresh perspective. I'm not saying that these choices are necessarily bad. I'm just a little skeptical. Now, one of the most promising points about all this is the director attached to all 4 of these projects, Sam Mendes. Yeah, this is the same director who gave us American Beauty, Skyfall, and 1917. So there is something there to hold on to, He clearly cares about storytelling. He cares about unique visual ways of communicating storytelling and using the language of cinema to express like complex characters. Yeah, 1917 alone shows how much he cares about storytelling. That movie really brings you inside of the moment and like keeps you in there, Not just something you watch, but like you experience it for the whole duration. Maybe that's exactly what the Beatles film needs, Something that brings you into the experience of actually being in the room with these 4 guys and out of the perspective of being one of the fans, like storming into EMI Studios. It cannot be just a predictable biopic. It needs to be something that really encapsulates who these people are. Greig Fraser is attached as the cinematographer, though, and that's another good sign. He was the cinematographer on Dunes Part 1 and 2. He was also the cinematographer on Rogue One, and he was also the cinematographer on The Batman. And all of these are like very visually striking movies. And when you combine that with Sam Mendes' ability to approach filmmaking with this eye for how to use the visual language of cinema to really encapsulate, a story and to put you into the perspective of, the characters. I think that's going to be like a very unique combination, and I think it's a very exciting combination to be working on a series of films together. They can really explore and push the boundaries of that visual language. And it is really great that they're doing all of these movies together and that they're planning ahead. Having the same guy direct all 4 of them will definitely make them feel more cohesive. It's also kind of neat that they're going to release them all at the same time. It'll probably be a fun cinematic experience to just be able to go and blam, 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 because they're 4. Watch them all together as like a massive marathon. I think that's going to make it like a very interesting cultural moment once they're all released. And I wonder how different the experience will be depending on the order of the movies that you watch. Every fan's going to want to watch the movie of their favorite Beatle first. And naturally, Ringo's going to outshine all of the other ones. As he did, his solo career, towered above all of the other ones in the immediate aftermath of the Beatles. And don't you forget about that. It looks like they might try to cover the entirety of the 60s as opposed to like focusing each movie on a specific period, which I really hope they don't. We've also got some additional hints from casting. We've got Anna Sawai in as Yoko Ono, and we've got Adam Pally as Alan Klein. So they're definitely going to be getting into the messy breakup era as well. You've also got Amy Lou Wood as Patty Boyd, and you've got Mia McKinnon-Bruce as Maureen Ringo. Okay, can we talk about the elephant in the room, though? There's no Cynthia named yet. Maybe this is a mistake, right? Maybe this was an oversight in like the press releases. Maybe she's coming later? Honestly, I would have preferred it if they made it about a specific period or even just a year or even a specific album. I mean, imagine getting to watch like a movie entirely focused on the production of Revolver or Rubber Soul or like Sgt. Pepper, whichever one's your favorite. And if you're even going to do just like a period, like doing the back to back to back of like Rubber Soul, Revolver, and then like, you know, Sergeant Pepper in like one movie, you know, and then like another perspective, like, you know, you come back and it's the White Album. There's 4 movies worth of material in just 1967. If you just focus on just a few months, you can just really fixate on getting that story as deep and as like emotionally honest and resonant as possible, on like really fleshing out these people and these moments, and you won't run into the pitfalls most biopics have. Okay, here's them making a night at the opera, but don't spend too long on it because we've got to get over to them writing Another One Bites the Dust. But don't linger on it too long because we've got to have the obligatory band breakup scene. And then we've got to have, you know, them getting back together and getting the band back together so that we can have our 20-minute Live Aid performance. And because the Live Aid performance is going to be 20 minutes long and happen at the climax, we've got to pretend that, you know, he's already got AIDS. As you might have guessed, I didn't really like Bohemian Rhapsody. No one really liked Bohemian Rhapsody. I shouldn't say that. Plenty of people like Bohemian Rhapsody. As we all know, they're definitely going to be going on the safe route, which is understandable. I mean, this is going to be a big budget production, 4 separate big budget productions, and everyone's got their own favorite, you know, Beatles era. And so they've got to cater to the fact that there are going to be fans looking for each of their favorite eras to be presented to them in this like new big budget format, and that they're going to be excited to see their favorite moments and favorite songs and favorite albums portrayed on the screen. So you gotta accept, you know, that there's going to be some interplay there, and just hope that they're still going to try to bring as much depth as possible to each of these moments with the amount of time and the sort of visual storytelling that they're going to be able to do. Overall, I am excited that these movies are being made, and I want to say I'm cautiously optimistic. Emphasis on the cautiously. I think we all hope that the movies don't just sort of like whitewash the story too much. Especially since we've had all of these recent revelations, and since like all of the people involved are getting very advanced in years. You know, we've had so much come out as a result of Peter Jackson's efforts with, you know, Let It Be and such, that we as like Beatles fans are kind of in an era where we know almost way too much about these people's lives. You know, we can pinpoint their like locations to the day sometimes. We know so much more about them than we did in the past. And so much of that information is publicly available that if you were to try to whitewash that now and sell the same rehashed story, I think it would really fall extra flat. You know, there's stuff that probably just won't make it into the movies, and we don't need to see literally everything. But the story as we know it now is so much more nuanced and so much more layered that there's an opportunity to tell it, you know, with these 8+ hours of movies in a really fresh and like unique way. But there's also so much of an opportunity to disappoint fans by just not having the guts to tell it. So I hope that they do. Sam Mendes obviously is not afraid to tell upsetting or weird stories, and so I think some of it comes down to whether the, you know, people, the estates responsible for okaying the movie's release are comfortable letting it all out there, and just how they want that perspective to be done. But I guess we'll see. Either way, I'm gonna watch all 4 movies. That's just the reality of it. Even if it's 4 Bohemian Rhapsodies, I'm gonna sit through just to make sure that Sam Mendes didn't make one of them cooler than the others, you know? And I'm sure that there's gonna be a lot more announced in the build-up. Like, we are still, 2 years? Yeah, 2028. Yeah, we're still 2 years out from the, like, release of all of these. So, you know, we'll probably want to return and have a lot more to talk about before we even get halfway there. And there's going to be a lot more once we start approaching that release date, which I'm very excited about. So, are you skeptical? Are you more on the cautiously optimistic side? And if so, is it leaning towards more cautious or more optimistic? Leave your thoughts in the comments, leave a like, and I'll see you next time.